One of the most compelling features of Japanese haiku poetry is its capacity to provide in a few brief lines an image of almost universal proportions. In the lines, "Now my loneliness after the fireworks, look, a falling star," the reader finds himself in a moment of interrupted solitude and at the same time perceives that the contrast between excitement and isolation is common to all men. What would his reaction be, however, if the poet had added color to certain words of the poem? Would the thoughts and feelings about the experience or the broader implications of the poem be any different if the words loneliness, fireworks, or star appeared in pink as opposed to deep blue? A number of recent experiments have shown that the coloration of words has a powerful impact on one's feelings about and interpretation of poetry. Light shades produce different reactions than dark shades, and blues elicit different associations than reds, although the words and form of the poem remain unchanged. I am reading The Significance of Skin Color in Human Relations by Kenneth J. Gergen, the first section. If colors have such a substantial impact when associated with the written word, is it not also possible that the pigmentation of skin may affect a person's feelings about other people and his interpretation of their actions? In particular, is it possible that color differences may play a divisive role in social relationships? The question is an intriguing one inasmuch as the major work on race, prejudice, and social conflict has used color simply as a way of designating the battle lines. Much less attention has been paid to the possibility that color may be partially responsible for the battle itself. There are numerous physical dimensions, such as height and weight, along which people within any society vary. For the most part, such dimensions may be characterized in two ways. First, they lend themselves to making fine distinctions, and second, the distribution of people along each dimension is roughly normal. For example, a person's height and weight are subject to very precise specification, and for varying purposes, people may be sensitized to slight differences in musculature, manifestations of aging, or girth size. At the same time, for each of these dimensions, there is a single norm within a society, and fewer cases exist as one moves away from this norm. While there are the very tall and the very short, the majority of the population falls within the mid-range. Likewise, populations are not often composed solely of the lean or the heavy. In the case of skin color, neither of these population characteristics generally holds true. Although fine gradations in skin pigmentation can be made, social traditions normally disregard them. People are classified as white, black, yellow, and so on. To be sure, the classification of high yellow or mulatto is sometimes used, but at least for members of white society, those who fall into such categories could just as well be jet black. The reason for these rather indiscriminate categories may be traced in part to the distribution of skin characteristics within a society. Unlike the physical dimensions discussed above, skin color is not normally distributed within most contemporary societies. Rather, the distribution tends to be multimodal, with the result that several different subgroupings are commonly recognized. Thus, the common perceptual tendency is to treat as equivalent all those who fall within a given sub-distribution. The person's major problem is in deciding into which of the available subgroupings a person is to be placed. In an extensive series of investigations, Charles Osgood and his associates have found that the categories used to classify objects or people take on certain connotative meanings. The primary connotation is evaluative in nature. Any category or its exemplars will elicit feelings that may be placed somewhere along a good, bad, or pleasant, unpleasant dimension. The latter two dimensions of connotative meaning are potency and activity. In effect, the person will subjectively estimate the power or strength of various objects and identify them as to their degree of passivity. Investigations in this area have found the same meaning dimensions to exist in many diverse cultures and to pertain regardless of the particular object being classified. Inasmuch as one major way of classifying people reflects the various pigmentation groupings, the major question emerges as to whether there may be compelling reasons for negative evaluations to become associated with members of groups other than one's own. Given no other information about persons whose skin differs from one's own, are there psychological processes that tend to cause one to evaluate such persons in a less than favorable way? Evidence from a number of domains suggests an affirmative answer to this question. From a historical viewpoint, Sigmund Freud, and I know anyone who's taken psychology has read about Sigmund Freud, or even those in high school. Sigmund Freud played, from a historical viewpoint, played perhaps the first significant role in thinking about this question. On the basis of extensive case studies, Freud theorized that the overriding pleasure instinct first becomes gratified within one's own body. In the life of the infant, libidinal energy becomes attached to the person himself prior to his finding suitable fulfillment in the external world. This narcissistic inclination was felt to be a universal condition engineered to the individual's later choice of love objects. The adult person would be attracted to those people who most resembled some aspect of his own being. While many are unsympathetic to Freud's particular statement of the case, contemporary work in the field of social learning tends to bear Freud out in certain respects. It has been shown that a person will seek out and associate with persons who provide gratification or reinforcement. If the initial source of gratification is not available, the person will base his choice of an alternative on the extent to which the potential alternate resembles the initial source. If, for example, a youth has been raised in such a way that he is extremely dependent on his mother for food, affection, or other forms of gratification, he might be expected to choose a wife who resembles his mother in some gross respects. From this point of view, one may generalize to say that self-love will eventuate in love for others who resemble self. In addition, to the extent that the person's major gratifications have been received within a social group delineated by a particular skin color, his future choice of friends, colleagues, or compatriots may be expected to fall within the same category. His evaluation of persons outside the category will be much less positive. Such work suggests that the roots of ethnocentrism may be exceedingly deep. And that was The Significance of Skin Color in Human Relations by Kenneth J. Gergen. My next reading in the next section of it will go further into the perceptual tendencies. Please stay tuned to Black Living Room Talk for more conversations, stories, and information. I wish you peace, love, and light, however you spend your weekend. Hotel.